Basketball fans, welcome to another NBA season. This is the New Look Raptors Today. I'm Akil Augustine, joined by the boys. Of course, we got the principal, Paul Jones, and the well-dressed Sherm Hamilton in the building. Gentlemen, I know you guys been working, but this is our first episode, so I got to ask, how's your summer been? How's your spring been? How's your fall been?
Summer's been good. Summer's been good. Too short, but always a chance to recharge. And the good thing is we come back to great jobs. There's tougher ways to pay the bills. I get to sit and chat with you guys. I get to see our producer, Jake, and the people behind the camera. And like I always said, we live in the world's toy department, being involved in sports, right? Like people who are first responders and, you know, that's plumbing, that's electrical, that's important stuff. Not that ours isn't, but we're the toy department, so I'm good with that.
Let's play.
Yeah, summer's been good. I mean, played a lot of golf.
Yep.
Still not enough, but I played a lot. But it's always interesting this time of year when the excitement of the season comes around and you can't wait to get at it, but you don't want to let go of golf in the summertime. But there's something that pays the bills and there's something that isn't. I'm glad to be back.
And the other side of the excitement of this part of the season is anything's possible.
Yes.
You're undefeated, blank slate. Everyone's projecting out. You're going to go 82-0, make a hot run, win a championship. But let's get down to the brass tacks, the big change for this Toronto Raptors squad. Obviously, at the top is head coach Darko Rajakovic, now in charge of this group. And so much has been said by him and the media about what he plans to implement with this new look Toronto Raptors squad. So, gentlemen, from what you've heard, Sherm, I'll start with you. What is the most compelling storyline or the most interesting change that Darko is bringing to this group so far?
Well, there's a couple. I mean, obviously he's looking at the game offensively in a way that has that ball moving. It's popping. It's multiple quick decisions per possession, and I think that's important because, you know, you don't have who you had at the point guard position right now. Mm-hmm. You have a very good point guard coming in Dennis Schroeder, but there's adjustments that have to be made. And I think the idea of letting everybody become decision makers is a very, very interesting concept. And it also allows Scottie to kind of move up the ranks in terms of a ball handler. And to me, when you're moving the ball like that, even when shots aren't going in, the defense has to respond and react.
Yes.
And I think that's where you get away from the stagnation, the kind of sticky finger possessions that the Raptors have had in the past, and that fluidity will hopefully allow this team to offensively not stall as we've seen it happen, not many times, but enough times in the past. You know, I think, and defensively, the idea of really putting pressure on the ball and really getting into people, it's going to be interesting. Two sides of the basketball, a lot of energy expended on both sides. How does that play out in Game 52 and Game 60 and you know, positioning-wise and energy-wise? Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see how this team plays. One thing we know is that they will play hard.
Yep.
They will go after it every night.
Yes.
And if situations need to change, they will be changed. But there's no question about it. This group will play hard.
To kind of punctuate some of the things that Sherm said, in watching the team in training camp, I'm gonna turn it back. Because there was a time, Sherman, both you guys remember this, when coaches hated when you dribbled the ball, right? Yeah. Like, what are you dribbling it for? And we've come to the NBA now where a lot of it is based on ball penetration and guys, you know, handling the ball for a long time. Sherm calls it sticky fingers, and they're trying to do something while some guys around are kind of watching or waiting.
Yeah, your better players get to do what they want.
This is going to happen in the system in Toronto, but not in the same way it used to in the past. As I said, winding it back in the day, the ball moved and people moved. And this is doing it at a quicker pace. Coach Darko calls it the 0.5. You got a half a second to make a decision with the ball. Now, Nick Nurse always talked about when you catch it, either shoot it, pass it, or dribble it, don't hold it. But this is being emphasized more, Sherm said, without the same point guard running the system, and everybody has a chance. Like during training camp and in the exhibition game, you saw Jakob Poeltl, and I joke about this. All you do is swap out that Grateful Dead headband that Bill Walton was wearing at the high post and watching him make plays and the splits off the high post entry. And you know, yeah, there's some screen and roll stuff, but the quick hit aheads and people moving. And for a guy like a Gary Trent or a Pascal Siakam or a Scottie Barnes, with the defense moving the way Sherm talked about, when you get that isolation opportunity, it comes in that way that it used to in the past, where the defense is moving, they're adjusting, they're worried about weak side movement or misdirection stuff, and you get your opportunity to go one-on-one in 2 or 3 seconds and 2 or 3 dribbles with the defense occupied and the help isn't there. And I think that's what you're going to see. People are going to like the movement. And look, if we watched the Sherm, I know you did, we watched the World Championships, you watched Serbia, Darko's Serbian. You saw the way that team played. The Raptors will probably emulate some of that with the ball movement and player movement and cutting. And I like I said, I love the high post action. I love the splits when the ball's entered and just the confusion it creates for the defense. I'm looking forward to this. And some of those shots that were difficult last year will be easier this year because of what the offense is doing.
All right, now for me, I want to talk about the energy surrounding this group, because I think that's a big thing that Darko focused on. And when you're a Raptors broadcaster, a Raptors fan, the elephant in the room was, of course, the energy significantly changed last year towards the end of the year. Lots was made of the end-of-season press conferences for Nick Nurse. Now he's in Philly. We'll talk about that at some point in the future. But let's talk about how things have shifted for this Toronto Raptors group, because the expectations of certain players have changed, but he's kind of brought a collegiate atmosphere. And how have you seen that play out so far with this Raptors group in camp?
I think the key word there for you that you mentioned, Akil, is energy. You see the enthusiasm. There's kind of a renaissance, a rejuvenation of guys' spirits around basketball. And some of it's the same message. It's just coming from a different voice. You're a dad now. You'll get to the point where your child doesn't listen to you, but let somebody else say the same thing, and they come home and go, "Hey, Dad, you know what so-and-so said?" And so I'm watching this group kind of take that energy and look forward to the whole newness of it all, like the rebirth of it all, and take it forward. I actually quite like it.
Well, what we know is this team last season had something hanging over them. Yeah. And it was evident. It was verbalized. Masai Ujiri pointed it out.
Yep.
He called the team selfish. And that's something that can really destroy the core of your team when selfishness creeps in. And I think the guys who were here last year who experienced that have to have a breath of fresh air about, okay, that's over with. We're not going down that path. We're starting fresh. We're making decisions based on a new mentality, a new approach. And to me, that creates a levity in the atmosphere. It creates the ability to feel like you can be a different person in this surroundings. And I think that's going to happen. The guys coming in, you're coming into an organization that's not that far removed from winning a championship. So you understand the expectation of what this organization is trying to do. And it's an opportunity as well. So I think there's a lot of positives. And that energy that was there last year was palpable. And they want none of that.
Akil, and I don't know if the camera could pick it up in any of the stuff in the preseason game. We certainly saw it at the open practice out at Simon Fraser University. 2 teams were playing. Darko was not coaching one team. He was kind of sitting in the middle, watching all of the stuff, evaluating the systems. But when a guy came off the floor, the teacher, he went right over to them and sat with them and gave them immediate feedback. You could see him saying, this was good. I need to see more of this. And there was like a little fist bump or a little pat on the back, and up he got back to his spot. And that's, as Sherm said, that's the kind of thing that changes the energy, right? What's worse for a player than going to sit on the bench and the coach says nothing to you, right? Like, why did he take me out? Did I screw that up? Was I okay? Well, no doubt here. No doubt here. It's kind of the old-fashioned way of doing it, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and Gary Trent Jr. said something on Media Day.
Yes.
Gary Trent Jr. said, this is the most I've had communication with a coach.
Yeah.
Now, we can take it as a knock against Nick Nurse, but I don't see it that way. I see it as a player who wants to be a part of something and is feeling invigorated at the fact that, hey, man, we haven't even hit the floor yet for the season, and his coach is communicating with me in a way that I haven't been communicated with. You know, kind of pop that puts in your step, the energy it brings, the positive mentality that it adds. That speaks a lot for, a coach you've met for a couple months, and now you're all of a sudden speaking that highly about the way you communicate.
And what does it do for you as a player when the coach is coming to you? You're not afraid to go to him with a question or a comment or something that you want to know about, whether it be about playing time or some of the offensive or defensive systems. There's an open channel there. And it becomes two-way after a while that, hey, I mean, this guy's okay with me. I'm okay with him. Let's talk it out if we need to.
The learning and the talking continues. Right now we head down the highway to the OVO Center of Practice and listen to Scottie Barnes.
You must have much more knowledge of personnel around the league and how to defend them. Does that make you a better defender going into the
For sure. Just knowing people's moves and what they do out there on the floor is obviously going to make you a better defender, make you aware of what they're going to do. But I feel like I'm already a really great defender, and I just got to go out there and show it every game.
How do you measure your progress defensively?
Going out there defending, get stops, working as a team. I feel like once we defend as a team better, it helps out everybody else on the floor. Once you're losing, you're not going to get as much recognition. But we go out there and win games, it's going to recognize everybody on the defensive end. Winning, if we're winning, then our defense is really good. So that's how we're all going to get our recognition. Winning games and having high intensity on defense and making those rotations, and it's going to make everybody look good.
A lot's been talked about with the 0.5 offense and getting rid of the ball and getting off the ball really quickly. You've always liked to pass the ball, but how about passing it that quickly? Like, is that you have to adapt to that?
No, it's not that hard, If the next guy's open, just pass the ball. If you feel like you got to drive right away, then just make that read. Instead of stalling the ball, I feel like it helps us all make quicker and better decisions. Helps us less dribble the ball. So it's a smart thing to do.
Back at it with the pros here at Raptors Today. Let's talk about the point guard situation for this group, because there was so much speculation when Dennis Schroeder came in. He made some comments that had everybody thinking he's expecting to be the starter, and then a lot of the fan base wanted to see this experiment. People talked about Scottie Barnes being point Scottie. First and foremost, does it really matter in this ever-changing NBA who's being assigned the name of the point guard, because we expect so much of the offensive flow to be dictated by what's happening on the defensive side and when you got the ball? Like, do you think that matters as much?
I think it matters at times when you're late in the shot clock. You need somebody to get you into your stuff. And, yeah, it can be your point guard, but what's to say a guy like Scottie Barnes couldn't do that? Or you have, a signal for when you're inside of 10 seconds on the shot clock and it's an automatic screen and roll with whoever. Like a lot of teams do that. Fire, 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 butter, 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 whatever the call is. So I think it matters then a little bit, but in this ball movement and kind of equal opportunity offense, I don't get bent out of shape with that. If guys understand how to play, understand their roles, and the decision-making is good, I don't get bent out of shape with that.
Yeah, theoretically, sure. In a practical sense, doesn't matter. Let's be honest. We've seen anomalies many times in terms of bigger players handling the ball and being decision makers.
Yeah.
So what does it matter in a game?
You're not going to take the ball to Giannis's hands.
Exactly.
Jokic.
If Schroeder's in the corner waiting for the pitch out and Scottie Barnes is coming off the screen and roll, are we upset with that? No. 5 seconds or less, he's going to make a decision, make a play. It doesn't matter to me, and especially in this offense and this climate of the NBA where so many different positional players are handling the basketball and being decision makers in clutch moments. In theory, it on paper it sounds good, but we roll players out there. You don't have to have a designated point guard anymore.
Now, with all that being said, is the expectation with the remainder of preseason to see some time with Scottie at the point, just to see that experimentation opportunity?
I think you saw that in the first game against Sacramento, the first preseason game against Sacramento. I watched keenly. It was a very slow start for the Raptors.
Yep.
And they kind of got their legs under them, kind of figuring out the new system. It was tied at the end of the quarter, 35, a lot of points. And then in preseason. And then Darko kept looking for different combinations. And you look at who was out there, and Dennis Schroeder had 3 fouls too.
Yeah.
So now you're playing different combinations. And yeah, Mike Brown in Sacramento maybe took some of their guys out. Mike Brown said before the game, we don't have any of our true half-court sets in. We're going to play in our flow. But the Raptors look pretty good. They look pretty good. And I'm excited to see what it brings on the offensive end. Like, there was a time late in that second quarter when Scottie Barnes took over that little portion of the game, pushing the ball ahead, feeding guys in the lane, getting to the basket and kicking out, finding Pirtle and Pascal running the lane as trailers and stuff like that. So I'm excited.
So is the Scottie point guard thing less of a half-court set, traditional calling out the play look, or is it more of he's the point guard when he's pushing the pace?
I think in either situation, Scottie can thrive. Now, it's going to take some work, but there's no question about it. In that first game that we saw this season, the preseason, Scottie's cardio is off the charts.
Yeah.
He is moving.
He talked about that,
he
right?
talked about
that point.
He's moving. Now, playing at a faster pace, now your decision-making has to be sharper. If you're going to handle the ball, there is some leeway because high volume usage creates some turnovers, but there's no doubt that he's got to be sharper. And what the cardiovascular ability does for Scottie, I feel as a young player, is not in the first 3 quarters, but in the fourth quarter, when you need to have your cardio there, because the first thing that goes when your cardio goes is your mind.
Yeah.
And if Scottie's mind can stay there because of his cardio, then he can be a trusted decision maker late in games. And I think that's what they want him to be. Now, Scottie, to me, in the open court is a nightmare. He's an absolute nightmare. His vision is phenomenal.
You want to catch his shoulder to the mouth?
100%. The types of delivery systems that he has in terms of passing the basketball, it's phenomenal. The touch is unreal. The half court, it's going to take a bit more time. Defenses are locked in. You got eyes looking at you. You've got to make the reads in a short clock situation. It's different. But there's no question, him handling the ball is what the Raptors want, and now he's going to get the opportunity to do that.
I had 2 scouts from, and it's the first preseason game, 2 scouts from NBA teams sitting behind me, taking notes and trying to get a read on what Darko is going to do and what his system is. Halftime came, got up, walked towards the media room to get a drink, see if I could find a bag of popcorn. And I saw the one guy was writing. I said, tapped him on the shoulder, and I've known him for a while. This is like his 3rd team. I said, so what do you think about Scottie? And he just kind of shook his head and went, oof. He said, scary. He said, that kid is going, if this keeps up and he's on this trajectory, he said the potential for him to be dominant. And he looked at me and said, no, Jonesy, I mean dominant. I'm not just saying that like everybody throws it around. The potential for him to be dominant is crazy.
Well, that's music to the ears, of course, to the Raptors coaching staff and Darko Rajakovic. And now we get to hear from Darko after practice.
I think guys are really accepting it, trying to do it, but it's gonna take time to become a habit, to become natural for them. It's gonna need repetitions, and we will need games. We'll need video sessions to really improve on those. So it's not gonna happen overnight. I don't have those expectations, but I do have expectations for us to continue getting better. So obviously, we want to play our best players in every game when we have opportunity to do so. But at the same time, it's very important to play more than 8 guys. For me, I want to have guys, 10 guys in rotation, so more players a little bit have less minutes per game, and that way they can be more ready to play over the long season. Great, because different coaches bring in different perspectives in our meetings in preparation for the games. Obviously, they have different experiences, so it's always fresh and good for me to hear something different or something new. And I really encourage all the coaches to have a voice and to bring opinions. They're not always like what I think. I want to be challenged. I want to get better. I want to learn. I think that the flow of the game is very important. We are learning each other. We're learning how to play. We will not be able to play 48 minutes of perfect basketball without mistakes. So if mistakes are happening, how are we going to handle those? Are we going to be able to focus on the next possession? Are we going to be able to stay together? You know, that's for me is very, very important. Like, we'll make mistakes, but once we make mistakes, we got to be able to quickly bounce back and focus on the next possession, offensively and defensively.
In terms of getting their perspectives, sort of what's your process for getting that feedback every practice, every game?
Every minute of the day when we have a chance to get together and talk basketball, we do that. And we have really, really good people and good professionals on the team. So we love to be around each other and spend time and talk basketball. And we're doing that daily. Before practices, after practices, communication that goes on after we go home at night. It pretty much never stops.
Back at it with Sherman Jonesy talking Raptors brand basketball, and for all you gamblers and bettors out there.
See, now you're going to take us there.
Yeah, we have to
take us there. You're going to take
the majority. Wait, what do you want to say?
This for recreational purposes only.
All right,
the next segment, okay?
I doubt they're listening.
Meanwhile, Jake is doing his money sign back there. Like.
Okay, but the majority of Vegas sports books have the Toronto Raptors at 36.5 when it comes to the over-under for wins in this upcoming regular season. How do we feel about that?
Can I give another disclaimer?
Yeah, give me another one.
Those people in Vegas,
yeah,
with their stats and analytics and algorithms and stuff,
yep.
Sometimes I look at them and they say, no chance.
Yep.
And then they're right on.
Yeah.
Okay? Like there was one year Philly went from like 31 wins. The over-under was like 50.5. I'm like, no chance. And they won 51.
It's crazy sometimes.
It's crazy. Like sometimes the line looks funky, but they're usually kind of in the ballpark.
I've been on the losing end of many of those bets.
That being
Vegas
said,
ain't Vegas because they're wrong.
Thank you.
The house always wins, or at least the majority of the time.
Those big hotels aren't built from winners.
But what does that mean to Raptors fans, though? Because they're traditionally...
What's the number?
36.5. The Raptors have traditionally beaten expectations.
Somebody told me 10 of the last 11 years or something like that, 9 of the last 10 years. 36.5, recreational purposes only. If I had $1 in my pocket, I would take the over. This team was 41-41 last year with, as Sherm calls it, issues hovering.
Everyone called it issues, right? There was stuff going on, so it's fair to say.
It's over. It's taking over. 100%.
You heard it here first. Sherm's lock of the year.
Done.
Hold on.
We're going 37
What money
done.
are you using for that? You're using your money?
I'm not betting on it.
Well, I'm going to take the advice.
Yeah.
37 wins and up for your Toronto Raptors. You hear it here first right on Raptors Today. That does it for us as we start our brand new season. Stay tuned. More to come. We'll be back next week with another episode. But until then, basketball fans, be safe out there.